Imagine a Tuesday evening in a quiet suburb where the lights are on in nearly every window, yet the streets are empty. Inside one of these homes, a couple is rushing to unpack grocery delivery bags, while a tablet entertains their toddler and a robotic vacuum hums in the background. They both earn six-figure salaries, yet they feel a strange, persistent tightness in their chest when they look at their bank app. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics 2024 Consumer Expenditures Report, the average American household is now spending $13,318 a year on transportation alone. That is 17% of their total spending, trailing only behind housing. But the number on the window sticker of the SUV in the driveway doesn't tell the whole story. The real cost isn't just the metal and the rubber, it's the price of the time that vehicle was supposed to save. This isn't about being bad with money or buying too many lattes. It is a structural shift in how we live. When two people in the household work full-time, they trade their hours for a paycheck, but in doing so, they create a massive time deficit at home. The grass still grows, the laundry still piles up, and the kids still need to be driven to soccer. To solve this, we buy back our time. We pay for the car that gets us there faster, the daycare that watches the kids, and the app that brings dinner to the door. What started as a luxury convenience has morphed into a recurring fixed overhead. Consider the baseline of our survival. The Bureau of Labor Statistics notes that housing consumes $26,266 a year for the average household, or about 33.4% of total spending. When you add that to the 17% spent on transportation, half of every dollar is gone before you've even bought a loaf of bread. For the 49.6% of married couple families that are dual income, this pressure is amplified. They aren't just paying for a roof, they are paying for a lifestyle that allows them to keep working. Let's look at a hypothetical household we will call the Miller family. They earn $150,000 a year combined. After taxes, they might take home $10,000 a month. On paper, they are wealthy, but then the structural costs kick in. They have two car payments because they both work, totaling $1,200. Insurance, fuel, and maintenance for those vehicles add another $500. Their mortgage and utilities take $3,500. Already over half their take-home pay is spoken for. This is the monthly minimum. The most aggressive of these costs is often the one we talk about the least in financial circles: childcare. Data from Childcare Aware of America shows the average annual cost of childcare hit $13,128 in 2024, a 29% increase since 2020. It isn't just getting more expensive, it is outpacing everything else. The Bank of America Institute reported that childcare inflation was up 5.2% year over year in September 2025, which is 1.5 times faster than overall inflation. For the Millers, this adds another $1,100 to their monthly ledger. Why does a $1,000 car payment actually cost $4,000? Because of the chain reaction it triggers. To afford the car, you need the high-paying job. To keep the job, you need the childcare and the long commute. To manage the long commute and the job, you have no time to cook or clean, so you pay for convenience services. The car is the catalyst for a lifestyle that demands more spending. It's a flywheel of overhead. We are witnessing a phenomenon where time poverty is driving a shift in how we handle physical currency too. The Atlanta Fed's study on consumer payment choice showed the average person carried $81 in 2023, but that dropped to just $67 in 2024. We don't carry cash because we don't have time for the friction of cash. It is worth pausing to consider the human element of this equation. The Levy Economics Institute found in 2025 that roughly 39% of single adults suffer from time poverty, with employed women facing a 9-point gap compared to men. When you are time poor, you cannot shop for bargains, you cannot wait for the bus, you cannot repair your own sink. You are forced to use capital to solve problems that your grandparents solved with labor. This is the hidden tax on the modern professional. Let's check back in with the Millers. We left them with $3,700 after their primary bills, but they are tired. They spend $400 a month on prepared meals and grocery delivery because they get home at 6:30 p.m. They spend $200 on a landscaping service because their weekends are for recovering from the work week. They spend another $400 on activities to keep their children engaged while they catch up on emails. Suddenly, that $10,000 paycheck has dwindled to $2,700. If one of those cars breaks down or a medical bill arrives, that surplus evaporates. Reasonable people disagree on whether this is a trap or a choice. Some argue that this is simply the price of a high-functioning society. We specialize in our careers and pay others to specialize in their services. It's a classic economic trade-off. This depends entirely on whether the career growth outpaces the cost of the outsourcing. If a promotion brings in an extra $2,000 a month but requires a longer commute and more takeout, was it actually a raise? This logic doesn't apply if you genuinely find joy in the services you pay for. If you love your car and hate gardening, then paying for a lawn service is a rational utility maximization. One fair counter-argument is that these expenses are often temporary. Childcare costs eventually drop when children enter public school. A car is eventually paid off. A household might argue that they are just in a high-cost season of life. While that is true, the reality is that we often fill those newly opened gaps with new overhead. When the daycare bill disappears, it is frequently replaced by sports travel teams, private tutoring, or a larger home. Another counterargument is the necessity of safety and reliability. A person might choose a $1,000 monthly payment for a new electric vehicle, not out of vanity, but because they lack the time to deal with a used car breaking down on the highway. In a world where only 10% of private sector workers had access to commuting subsidies in 2024, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the burden of getting to work falls entirely on the individual. If the Millers are saving $2,700 a month, they are doing better than most. However, if they lose one income, the entire structure collapses. Their fixed costs of $6,300 cannot be sustained by one salary. This is the true cost of the $1,000 car payment. It isn't just the $12,000 a year in principal and interest. It is the fact that the car requires a specific kind of high-stress life to justify its existence. It tethers you to a specific income floor. We are seeing a slow erosion of the financial middle ground. You are either wealthy enough to ignore these costs, or you are living in a state of high income volatility where you are one bad quarter away from a crisis. This is a behavioral shift as much as an economic one. We have been conditioned to see time saving as a moral good. We feel productive when we outsource. To have $1,000 of post-tax money for that car, you likely had to earn $1,400. To get to the job to earn that money, you paid for gas and insurance. Because you were at that job, you paid for the after-school care. Because you were tired from the job and the commute, you paid for the convenience of the meal. This doesn't mean we should all move to the woods and grow our own vegetables. That isn't realistic for the majority of the population. However, it does suggest we need a new framework for evaluating our purchases. Does this house require a lawn service? Does this job require a second car? We often think of wealth as what we can buy, but true financial resilience is often found in what we can choose not to buy without our lives falling apart. The goal of the modern economy is to make as many of your expenses as possible feel like rent, costs you cannot escape, cannot negotiate, and must pay just to stay in the game. The Millers might look at their 3-car garage and their beautiful kitchen and feel successful, and in many ways they are, but they are also on a treadmill that is set to a very high speed. If they want to slow down, they don't just have to spend less, they have to structurally redesign how they live. They have to find ways to reduce their monthly minimum. That might mean living closer to work, even if the house is smaller. It might mean choosing a car that is boring but paid for. As we look toward the future, the pressure to outsource our lives will only increase. New technologies will promise to save us even more time, for a small monthly fee, of course. We will be offered more ways to bypass the mundane tasks of existence. But before we sign up, we should calculate the real price. We should ask if we are buying time to do something meaningful or if we are just buying time.